Hey, Joe, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm good, Carlos. How are you?
I'm doing really well, enjoying this little bit of a heat wave we have coming in here. As a Minnesotan, I am not going to complain about hot weather.
No, and I'm not a big fan of the heat, but I can handle it for a few months, couple months, maybe 3. But looking forward to that. Looking forward to the 4th of July weekend here. So that's forward
coming
to.
up, and then we got NBA is over and NHL is over. You are my Timberwolves guru.
Yes,
So
I'm getting nervous.
And I did not prep you for this, so feel free to punt for next week. But what do you think about Naz no longer being a Timberwolf and the LaMelo Ball era beginning?
So I'm in the minority that I like the trade.
Okay.
I think we needed to get a point guard in here. I think he will also be able to take the pressure off of Edwards when double teams come, those things too as well. So I'm all for it. The Naz Reid leaving, I was as a fan.
I mean, obviously, how can you not like him, right?
Yeah.
He's just the perfect story. At the same time, you don't build a team around that. And that great piece, but not the piece.
Yeah, and he came off the bench for all intents and purposes, and I would tell my wife when we'd watch the games of this past season that some games he was a swinging gate out there on defense. He could do some really athletic defensive plays, but when trying to keep in front of a guy, sometimes that wasn't so good.
And throw some cold water on this from an outside perspective, not an NBA guy. I feel like some of the LeBron talk here in Minnesota is silly. There's no chance he's coming to Minnesota, is there? I don't see it. I don't see it at all.
The only thing that gives me just a smidgen of hope, I'm actually in your camp, is that every other power forward that I could think that we would sign has been signed by somebody else. He's one that's out there, so I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to end up in Golden State, right? He's not going to leave California. But
I can't imagine. But once again, I look forward to being pleasantly surprised because that would be big. That would be the number one sports story in Minnesota for a long while.
It would be.
It would exceed the Brett Favre's plane has landed. The Vikings have sent people to pick him up from the airport. He is now at training camp. If you recall that from 20 years ago, it would be very similar if LeBron were to come to Minnesota, but I don't think it's happening.
Yeah, it's a long shot, but hey, we're a town of long shots, right?
We are. And you know what? That's the thing who's the guy that is the brain trust now at Target Center? Is that Connolly?
Connolly's the general manager, and then you have Alex Rodriguez.
Okay. Yeah, I know the owners, but at least it seems to me, once again, outsider guy. I don't even listen to talk radio, sports, so it's like I'm really just throwing it out there from stuff I've read. But at least it seems like Connolly he's not striking out with the bat on the shoulder. He's out there trying to always perfect, but he's out there trying, and that's all you can ask for in ownership.
Yeah, he's doing the Wayne Gretzky thing, right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yep, absolutely. So, Forgotten Television, The White Shadow, we completed season 1.
Correct.
And before we move on for the rest of the seasons, we were going to start having preliminary discussions today about what shows might come next after we finish up with The White Shadow.
Yeah, and The White Shadow's been good. I'm 3 episodes deep into episode 2, so boy, am I coming to grips with my memory and my history of those shows. But other shows too. I think the one that has been most requested by my my friends, and then also the popularity with the new show coming out in January would be the Rockford Files.
Yep.
And I know, Carlos, this isn't something that you're so familiar with, so it would be exciting for you to watch.
It's one of those shows that I would like to watch. Here's my only negative on it is there already is a podcast with the best name in the world called $200 a Day Plus Expensive.
There you go.
And so there are, but that's okay. They're going to have plenty of voices. But like I said, I think the timing is really ideal. And it's one that I missed and one that is so beloved by so many people. My understanding of what Jim Rockford was, he was an anti-hero in the 70s.
Yep.
Not your standard J. Edgar Hoover, straight-laced law enforcement. He was a little bit on the fringes of society. And yeah, that would make for a fun watch. I like that idea.
Yeah, he was ex-con because he was
Mm-hmm.
found to be not guilty at one particular point in time, and then that's why he's being a PI, because
Yeah,
obviously.
not on the force. Yeah, but
But
to me, I don't know. I remember as a kid that $200 a day was expensive, not bad. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah, yeah, but yeah, just if you watch that show, I can
yeah,
still remember particular scenes where you're shocked by, that'll be $1.50 for that drink,
yeah,
please, or or 50 cents. I don't even
yep,
remember, but because that show came out in 73, so that's one.
73.
But
Yeah,
there's a plethora of ones. Carlos,
yeah.
what's your kind of thought?
So one that jumped out at me just because of the incestuousness with the White Shadow is St. Elsewhere.
Yeah.
I did watch St. Elsewhere when I was a kid. Actually, you know what? I have a distinct memory of being a freshman at St. Thomas and having my theology teacher, shout out to Father Dr. Richard Sparks. He said, you know what? I worked for the doctorate. You're going to call me both. But he walks into class one day whistling the theme to St. Elsewhere. It just stuck in my memory. But great performances and great topics. And we have the cameo of our man Coolidge, who ends up in Boston and working at the hospital. And we've already mentioned his brief encounter with, is it Goldstein?
Salami
on the elevator. Yeah.
Yeah, and that would be a good one too at some point in time, because I have never watched St. Elsewhere.
Yeah. It's very good, and it had some very serious topics and some great actors.
Yeah, and like some actors that have now long passed away too, but some interesting scenes. Like I remember, at least I'm aware of, the one scene where the doctor pulls his pants down, and we won't go any more into that, but that was an interesting bit of TV.
There's an actor, David Morse. I don't know if you David Morse. He actually has a really serious arc where there's an episode where he's out of prison doctoring, and there's a riot, and he is raped.
Oh my God.
Prison. And so and then obviously you had Hartman. Oh God, who's the NCIS guy? I'm not thinking, former quarterback.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I forget his name too.
But he was on the show. His character, he was a ladies' man on the show, and he ends up contracting AIDS. And so there's a lot of serious plot points, but there's a lot of fun too. Howie Mandel, one of my favorite character actors of all time, going back to Animal House, Stephen Furst plays an amazingly fun character on there. And then just happening to see via social media, William Daniels.
Oh, yeah.
He and his wife are still alive, and they were both on that show.
He was in some teen shows, like past our time. I feel like
Boy Meets World. He was the teacher on Boy Meets World. Yep.
Yeah, and I was just like, and then he was also the voice of Kit.
Yeah. Oh wow! I did not know that.
Yeah, he was in that. What was the name of that show? It was Knight Rider.
Knight Rider.
Yeah. That was interesting. The other one I kind of.
What else you got?
This one I have is serious too, but we'll try to get to the lighter shows here in a bit. But MASH, is a classic show that I think a lot of people have no idea, but have good memories of MASH. For those who are
the reality is, it was probably it was the first dramedy, maybe.
Correct.
Because it was definitely not comedy. You know what I mean? It was plenty of comedy fodder. Great characters, but also a very serious plot because it's a war.
Exactly. And as it went on, it got more serious as opposed to when it first started too as well. And there's also interesting side stories, right? The guy who played Colonel Blake.
Yes.
He was a big star, and he was in MASH, but he decided that he was going to take the leap and leave MASH to go and do his own television show called Hello Larry.
Hello Larry,
where he was a DJ in, I think, Phoenix, maybe, or New Mexico. I can't remember. And that show didn't last so long, but he never did come back to MASH.
Do you know what his next job was after Hello Larry was canceled?
I do not.
He was one of the announcers for the USFL when it launched.
Really?
That's his post Hello Larry. And that did not go well. But I have to tell you, probably if maybe we'll do this at some point, but the top 5 most powerful TV moments of my life is Radar going into the surgery room and announcing that Henry Blake's chopper killed and there were crashed and there were no survivors. Apparently, I think Alan Alda was the only one that knew that scene was coming. because they threw it on at the end of the show, right? And the plot of the show was he was leaving, right? He was leaving the show and got on the chopper, and we're going to have the new. It's not Henry. Henry Blake was the new guy. It was
Potter. Colonel Potter.
Potter was the new guy. Henry Blake was the old one. Yeah. So that was McLean Stevenson. But it's just when Gary Berghoff as Radar reads that, it's really powerful. It is. You can tell he's feeling emotion as he reads it. So, thumbs up for MASH. I'm going to throw one out there, far more lighter fare.
Yeah.
But huge show. So much fun as part of my youth. But WKRP in Cincinnati.
Oh, that was, I love that show. I mean, no one in our generation, when Thanksgiving comes around, not think of WKRP. And
what's sad about that show is it's not as well known because it never made a life on streaming or digital or DVD because of music rights.
Oh, yeah, because they had DJ.
And so then what comes out is Dr. Johnny Fever is not laying down the needle on Led Zeppelin. Instead, it's some Muzak creation, and it kills it. There are other shows. One that took forever to get on DVD, Wonder Years. Wonder Years
because of all the
music. Power-packed with music, and it just apparently, and it's an area of the law that I've never engaged in, but clearing music for TV and film is apparently the greatest nightmare the world has ever seen. It's a huge problem.
Yeah, and WKRP was just funny, and again, beautiful bombshell woman from Minnesota. Let's all put it out there,
Lonnie. But I'm sorry, but I'm Team Bailey Quarters all the way.
Yep. So. There's another the quiet beauty one, right? And but just all of those characters, like I always liked Herb Tarlick, but also was repulsed by Herb Tarlick.
You should be. He was the salesman in the loud plaid coat.
Yeah, and
Les Nessman's such a classic character, and it's a joke I still tell to this day. Les Nessman is doing the Sporting News, and he goes, "Golfer Chay Rodriguez."
That's right. Yep. And then I just remember, and I haven't obviously seen the show for a number of years, but the sports guy, he had those weird ties, not like with a knot, but it was just kind of
the bolo ties.
It was a big, thick tie, but it didn't have a knot, and that's what I'd like to revisit.
Interesting. It's almost like I don't know what they call those scar. Yeah, I'm thinking Charles Nelson Riley.
Yeah,
match game. You got any more for us?
Oh yeah, I'm going to go with kind of maybe not. I don't know if you'd call it a drama. Certainly not a comedy, but another big one in my youth was The $6 Million Man.
Oh yeah.
So that one was a show that, for me, it was one that I would make sure that I watched. And then, obviously,
must-see TV,
Bionic Woman.
The spin-off. And actually, remember that there was a Bionic Dog.
Oh,
there was a Bionic Dog.
I've trailed off by that point, but if you put me...
It wasn't a separate show. It was a character on Bionic Woman. And there's the classic episode, too. I don't know if you recall. But Bigfoot versus Bionic Man was an episode that they had.
Wow, that escapes my memory, but one of my faves.
No, that one's great. And then every male, because I believe that women are too smart to be this stupid, but every man I know would do the slow motion sound and movement for when they become bionic. It is mentally etched in the Gen X brain. So.
And I can still remember to this day that I was disappointed, and I don't know why, because I don't know why I was emotionally invested in it, that the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman didn't, because she lost her memory in one episode and didn't know him, and she fell in love with her doctor, and it would just, it did not sit well with me for whatever reason back then.
I had a complex relationship with the $6 Million Man because my first wife was going to be Christy McNichol, but then Lee Garrett jumped in. And so I kind of had my eye on Farrah Fawcett. And sadly, the $6 Million Man, what is it, Lee Merriweather?
Oh, yeah.
No. Is that his name? Lee Merriweather?
No, for the who played that role?
Yeah.
I forget her name.
No, I'm talking about who played Steve Austin.
Oh, goodness. The guy, and he was also starting an 80s show about a stuntman.
Yes.
Yeah.
We should do better research. But anyways, he was married to Farrah, and so I was like, oh, damn, another rival.
Oh, that's right. But
I was not bionic, so I really didn't stand much of a chance. So, I am going to throw out there one that I absolutely adored, and this may be because I watched it with my dad. but also because I had a small little crush on the female lead, and that is the Lou Grant Show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I'm talking about Linda Kelsey, who's a little headed reporter who I think is local to, I think, Wisconsin, because she was on WCCO News about 20 years ago for about five years or so doing personality pieces. But that show was so great. That was Lou Grant leaves the Twin Cities instead of Marion. Now he's a newsroom for a newspaper, city editor. And this is post Watergate, where I think every other application to college was to be a journalism student, and these were going to be the cutting edge. I don't think people today realize the relationship that the world has with media now versus what it was in the 70s. That was the fourth estate. It would be, we're the ones who will get justice for the people kind of stuff. And so I liked it. I loved the character Lou Grant. I loved Ed Asner as a person and as an actor. And so I will throw a vote on Lou Grant.
Yeah, Lou Grant is a strange thing for me. I watched it as well. And to this day, I have a very distinct memory of one scene from that show where they hire a older woman reporter after coming off of motherhood, I believe. And something big happens in the newsroom. And they're going, where did Mary go? I sent her out to do this story about a church. And when she finally comes back, they said, where were you? And she said, I was up in the attic looking at the bell and trying to find a hook for this lame story that you gave me, like a true report, or something to that. I just, for whatever reason, that stuck with me.
That's funny.
But yeah, Lou Grant and the kind of the balding guy who sat next to him was kind of a same character. Yes. Yep. So yeah, let's see. For me too, one of the ones that maybe that kind of started it all in terms of long term and taking on social issues would be All in the Family.
All in the Family is a great show. And
so comedy, but also serious topics taking on.
And also, wow, if we thought there were some uncomfortable moments in The White Shadow, buckle up.
Yeah. Carol O'Connor as Archie Bunker.
Probably watched a couple of them over the last 5-10 years, and holy cow. Wow. Like, there's going to be significant parts of the show that I am not going to be Michael Scott and recreate it thinking I'm funny. I'm just not going to say it. Not going to say it. But what a show. And I don't know if I've mentioned it to you before, but to me, it's probably one of the most powerful things I've ever seen. There was an episode where Edith was raped.
Oh, my goodness.
There was a man broke into their house and he was trying to rape her. And it was probably one of the, and she's trying to escape. It's disturbing. You know what I mean? Because we know this character and she's like literally fighting for her life. Once again, back in the 70s, the line between comedy and drama was not very fine.
Yeah, because I remember it as a comedy too. Do you remember the scene where Archie and Dummy, as he would call his son-in-law, played by Rob Reiner, they were going to get up early and go on a hunting trip or something like that, and Rob Reiner put his shoes on and socks on one at a time.
Yeah.
And then it was this whole comedic scene about why are you putting them one at a time as opposed to both socks on and two shoes on. Yeah. So it's really incongruous with that.
I'm wondering if that isn't part of the same scene I saw where for whatever reason Archie and Meathead are in the same room. And Meathead has a method of getting into a bed, which is you don't undo a corner. You just kind of get to the top and wiggle your way down. And then Archie is, what do you do? And he goes, this way I'll cover you. What if there's a fire? And then something happened and Meathead couldn't get out of the bed quick enough. And he goes, Archie, you're right. So I don't know if it's that same one, but I'm like going, oh my God, it's so good. And I had forgotten, right? I knew the stereotypical stuff, but man, they were brilliant playing off each other.
And we know that, and I've been there because I went and see it. I have a picture of it too, is the Archie Bunker chairs at the Smithsonian.
Yeah. I don't think when this was 30, 40 years ago, Smithsonian was at the St. Paul Civic Center, I think, at the time. And I don't think Archie Bunker's chair made the traveling exhibit. I think the MASH sign did, because that's another one that is Smithsonian worthy, is Toledo and all the MASH sign, as well.
There we go. I think, those are all good choices. What about you? I'll try not to be so serious. I feel like I'm taking the serious.
You know what? I am actually going to go I'm going to go out in left field. Go to underpressure.substack.com to see the origin of the term out in left field. Just wrote about that today. But anyways, I am going to select one of my favorite shows. I will always stop if I am going past it, and that is Match Game with Gene Rayburn. And one of the reasons that show is so fun, apparently they seeded the cast with alcohol as much as possible.
Really?
And apparently they filmed like a week's worth, like in an afternoon, and they got them all liquored up. And then I'm a Gene Rayburn's long, skinny microphone.
Yep.
You've got the Richard Dawson, first becomes America's beloved game show guy. You have Charles Nyson Riley and Brett Summers and Fannie Flagg. And it was just classic for me. Once again, we all imprint on different stuff, but for me, it was game show.
I agree. I watched at least 2 or 3 episodes in the last year.
Yeah, and it's compelling. I don't know why. It's a silly little... The premise is actually good. Fill in the blanks.
Yeah. But what's more intriguing to me when I watch it's like, all right, who's that celebrity?
Yeah.
I haven't thought of Nipsey Russell in 40 years.
Nipsey Russell. Yes.
And some of these other ones, Charles Nelson Riley. What was this guy's background?
Yeah, exactly. How did he become a guy? And then people decide that he's a cornerstone feature. I've thought of that also on Hollywood Squares. I don't know why I just never connected with Hollywood Squares as much as I did with Match Game. But Match Game, and of course there was we're going to rebrand it and call it Match Game 75.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, one of the troubles with the rewatch is that maybe, although no one watches, I think that it would be the kind of show that you just take a little dip in and taste. So I don't think not being able
you don't see every episode for that.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to find every episode. So that's one. I'll throw another one out there as long as I'm out in left field here. And one I think I talked to you very early on, and this was actually my first choice for a rewatch podcast. And I asked my wife if she would watch it, do it with me. And her direct quote was, "That's a stupid idea." And we even watched one show together, and it was Land of the Lost.
So that was a Saturday afternoon?
It was a Saturday morning cartoon. It was a family that is whitewater rafting and somehow ends up in a time portal. And now there are lizard people, and it's like a brother and a sister and a dad. Who in season 2, the dad becomes the uncle. I don't know how they did that swap. And then you shouldn't do to people that are mean, like my wife, mention that Sleestack scared me because now she'll come up and she'll do that Sleestack sound like behind me. So I like Land of the Lost. It's cute. It's very light fare. So.
I wouldn't mind watching that. I do recall watching it, but I don't have any memory of it. But I do remember the opening sequence.
It's really, it's so bad. It is. And it's also in that, which would be another one here, but in that HR Puffin stuff style where it's like, you have to think to yourself, how many drugs were they doing when they created this? Land of the Lost has a little bit of that feel, but with throw in cheesy, bad sci-fi production values. And then you've got Land of the Lost.
I think that's good. I have 2 comedies that I'll mention here would be the one I think I'd like to revisit, since probably I didn't catch as hardly anything when I was young, but Hogan's Heroes.
Oh.
In the last White Shadow episode, the one where the social worker in the mainstreaming episode, she was a character in Hogan's Heroes. But I always found that funny. I saw the original movie, the serious movie that Hogan's Heroes was based on. But Hogan's Heroes was a very comedic all the time.
It was. I was a huge Hogan's Heroes watcher. And once again, it probably is, depending upon at what point you started watching TV when you got home from school and what the reruns were at that time, what imprints on you. I'm not saying it's high art.
Yeah.
But I want to know so much backstory. The Bob Crane thing is bananas to begin with. But are you familiar with the plot of The Producers?
I'm not, actually, off the top of my head.
Okay, so the idea of The Producers is these guys are going to do a Ponzi scheme. And they're going to get investors in their play. And they're basically going to sell the play to 50 different people, right? Which most plays don't make any money. So they close after a week. It's bad. Oh, too bad. But these guys have made 50 times the value of a play. And so they decide we need something that's going to close one. So they create one like a show called Springtime for Hitler.
That's right.
And so I kind of have this image of, okay, got an idea. We're going to set it in a prisoner of war camp during World War II. and it'll be a comedy.
Yeah. Taking it from a serious movie that was called Stalag 17.
Yeah. One other element that bodes, I think, a vote from me on this one is at St. Louis Park High School, we had a teacher named John. I think his first name is John, but his last name was Logering. I had him for a class called Conflict of Values, which I just loved. It was a lot of the stuff they do in the 70s where it's like, okay, you've got to restart a society and you've got a lawyer and a doctor and a farmer and who's the least valuable? And it's always the lawyer because, you know what I mean? You're in survival mode. But he was a pilot in World War II. He was shot down and was in a prisoner of war camp. So he would tell stories about, and he was in there for, I think, a year and a half. And he says, for entertainment, we would pick lice off each other. Class having fun. And then he did tell the story about he did get some moldy bread. And so he went on a 30-day acid trip from that while he was in the prisoner of war camp. So anyways, it's just that perspective to the comedy. But I love the show. I love the plots. I love the characters. I watched, a lot of that show. I watched it.
Yeah.
All of them. So 2 thumbs up for me on Hogan's Heroes. And it's obscure enough. I think that what people know is the Bob Crane movie.
Yep.
Bob Crane engaged in a
alternative lifestyle.
Yeah. And that led to his demise, potentially. But that's all kind of backstory to what else was going on there. When you had, once again, Richard Dawson, our man. There was Hinchlow.
Yep.
And there was LeBeau.
Yep. And
Sergeant Schultz and Colonel Klink.
And Major Strasser of the Gestapo.
Gestapo?
That's how they'd say it.
Yeah.
And
nobody has ever successfully escaped from Stalag 13.
Who was Hinch the African-American guy?
He was the black dude, yeah.
Yeah. And then I can't remember the guy who was kind of LeBeau's buddy. But
Carter.
He was Carter.
John, I don't know if it was John, but it was Carter, and he was a country bumpkin kind of a guy.
Yep, and then there was the general. I forget his name.
General Burkhalter.
That's it. But yeah.
Sadly, once again, why is that taking up real estate in my brain? And I couldn't help my wife find her keys earlier.
And then the Hogan's Heroes is coming to the fore. Maybe we'll see how that goes. And then the one for me in the 80s where I became, as I got older, didn't have much time to watch TV, but the post-news 10:30-11 slot for many years here in Minnesota was taken over by Cheers.
Okay, sure.
And so Cheers was, I remember when they tried to take it off channel, they had the people in the backyard during the weather would be chanting, "Bring back Cheers, bring back Cheers." Yeah. But I like Cheers. That was a great show. And that's another one that sort of could be one that we could potentially do too as well.
Oh yeah. I love Cheers. I'm going to throw another one out here, and it's going to be there's zero chance we'll be able to find the episodes, but I just read the book. Jim Bouton was a pitcher in the major league. A book about his experience in the late 60s and early 70s called Ball 4.
Yep.
And he was accused of breaking the code. He didn't really tell any other secrets other than ball players are normal human beings with normal desires and wants and foibles like everybody else. But they made a very short-lived, and I believe it lasted less than 10 episodes in 1974 or 76 called Ball 4. So it'd be fun to see what they did with that for a show that would have died. Once again, we've got a lot of options here. Some that would take us until 2028. Other ones where I think we could do one show on something like Ball 4 or one show on the match game.
I think so,
and cover it. I could see this going a lot of different ways. I'm not sure. A lot of these ideas excite me because it's like, first of all, I'd want to watch all these shows. I don't want to pick something I don't want to watch.
Yeah. So I think those are good. I think, too, that we should intersperse, once we get through the White Shadow, we could do a short one on the match game. I think makes sense. Yeah. Did you speak of Jim Bouton?
Yes.
I never read Ball 4, but I read his follow-up book about Poconos baseball. I forget the name of the book. And I was really impressed with it. And I think there was some sort of things left hanging at that end of that book that weren't resolved at the end. So I emailed Jim Bouton.
Oh, wow.
And he responded. This goes back many years now. I think it would have been maybe 2005, 2006. And I don't remember the nature of the exchange at that point, but he was, I think he's passed away now, but I just remember really being impressed with this book about, it was like the Catskills kind of baseball league. I forget where it was, but it was good, but yeah. But yeah, I think that once we get through with the White Shadow, I think we can break it up a little bit and do other things, because we could do shorter episodes, unlike other shows that didn't last that long. So I think that's always a good idea. Yeah. And of course, all of our listeners, let us know what you think.
We'll create some polls and stuff. I think that between you and I, Joe, I think we can summarize what we got, maybe rank it a little bit, and then throw a poll up and see what people think. But pretty much every show that you and I mentioned, I'd be like, I'll watch. I'm game for watching and talking about that.
Yeah.
I've already stated a ton of opinions about some of the shows, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to next week diving into season 2 of The White Shadow.
Yeah, 3 episodes deep, and the third show for me is the most memorable. That's one I remember, but some things, man, it's just really still, but it's good.
I cannot get into what was in my brain at 14 and 15. You know what I mean? I think the reality is there's not a lot of prefrontal cortex thinking. I think there was a fair amount worried about whatever sport season was in.
Exactly.
I think it was whatever obligations I had from a family standpoint. I wasn't quite working yet. There was definitely, I'd started to notice that there were girls in school. And so that took a tremendous amount of my brain power. But what might have been going through my mind while I watched an episode of The White Shadow, I don't know. And once again, I don't remember a lot of what we've seen. And what I do remember, I feel like we haven't come across yet. Because I remember the show was about Coolidge in my brain. And that was probably, we've discussed last week, this was not a Coolidge-centered season.
No. And even in the first couple episodes of season 2, Jackson is he's front and center in some of these pieces. Yep. And then Reese obviously makes a return too as well. But
in my brain, I always thought of the guy who was the spokesperson for the team as Haywood.
Yes.
He was, to me, he always seemed like I don't know why, but the brains of the operation, or the one that would have the most, that Reeves could get a hold of, and then that he could get a hold of the team. He was the conduit. And I really like that actor. I can't remember his name, but
yeah,
he's very, very compelling actor. And so, excited to dive into The White Shadow with you next week, and excited to see what people might have to say about our ideas for future episodes.
There we go. Thanks, Carlos. Have a good rest of the night, and then enjoy the weekend, and
enjoy your 4th, Joe.
You too.
We'll talk next week. Take care.